Imagine London blanketed under 30 cm of snow in just one night. Big Ben frozen in place, its iconic hands unable to move beneath the icy weight. Days later, winds tore through Scotland with the force of an explosion. This wasn't an ordinary winter. It was the winter of 1967-1968, when Britain faced two major disasters: a crippling blizzard that paralyzed the south and a storm that devastated Scotland. For those who lived through it, these few weeks in January defined what winter truly meant. Not just cold or snow, but nature reminding the nation it was never fully in control. The cold arrived quietly at first in early January 1968. People went about their routines, wrapped in coats, expecting nothing more than the usual British winter gloom. But on January 8th, the weather shifted dramatically. Heavy snow swept across southern and central England, driven by relentless southeast winds. By the morning of the 9th, entire regions were buried. Snow drifts reached 3 meters in some areas, while mid-Wales reported 30 cm. Roads vanished, railways froze, and villages were cut off. In London, Big Ben stood frozen at 6:28 am, silenced for nearly 4 hours as snow clogged its clock faces. Londoners stared in disbelief at the motionless symbol of reliability, realizing that if Big Ben could be stopped, so could the city. The blizzard brought life to a standstill. Trains froze on tracks, buses abandoned their routes, schools shuttered, and factories paused. Families woke to iced-over windows, milk frozen on doorsteps, and streets so deep in snow that cars disappeared beneath the mounds. This was no picturesque winter scene. It was harsh, isolating, and dangerous. Winds cut through clothing, snow drifts blocked roads, and some people trudged miles through waist-deep snow seeking help. Yet Britain responded in its own way. Neighbors dug each other out, strangers pushed stranded cars, and even postmen attempted deliveries. Life slowed, but it never fully stopped. Then the real catastrophe formed over the Atlantic, a massive storm. By January 13th, meteorologists spotted a low-pressure system near Bermuda. Initially weak, it intensified rapidly, deepening by 50 millibars in less than a day. The storm raced towards Scotland at incredible speed. Forecasts predicted it would miss the mainland, but they were wrong. On January 14th, it veered east, aiming directly at the central belt of Scotland. By the early hours of January 15th, the storm hit Glasgow with hurricane-force winds exceeding 100 mph. Roofs were ripped off, chimneys collapsed, walls crumbled, and trees snapped like twigs. Power lines fell, plunging the city into darkness. Families awoke to devastation. In Dumbarton Road, a mother and her young daughter visiting from England were killed when a chimney crashed through their roof. Similar tragedies occurred across the city. A pregnant nurse, children, men, and women lost their lives as masonry and debris rained down. In total, 20 people died that night in Scotland, 9 in Glasgow alone. The destruction extended beyond human loss. Over 300 homes in Glasgow were destroyed, 70,000 damaged, including half of the council housing. Edinburgh's famous Scott Monument lost one of its pinnacles. Churches, schools, factories, nothing was spared. Forestry reports showed 8,000 hectares of woodland destroyed and over 1,000 mature trees downed in the central belt. On the River Clyde, 7 ships sank, and an oil rig drifted dangerously in rough seas. Even Denmark felt the storm's wrath, with 8 fatalities reported. As dawn broke, the scale of the disaster became clear. Streets were filled with rubble, crushed cars, twisted lampposts, dust and debris hanging in the air. The human toll continued in the weeks after. Workers repairing homes were injured or killed by collapsing structures. Thousands were left homeless, living under tarpaulins that offered little protection. Schools, churches, and community centers became emergency shelters. The government's response was criticized as inadequate. Harold Wilson's Labour administration offered an interest-free loan of $500,000 for $30 million in damages, a stark contrast to immediate aid given to England after prior disasters. Scottish communities felt overlooked, yet local response was extraordinary. Soldiers arrived to help with cleanup, neighbors cleared debris side by side, Strangers opened homes to those displaced, and benefit concerts were organized to raise funds. Quiet determination prevailed. The January 1968 storm left lasting change. The Met Office upgraded forecasting technology, building regulations were strengthened, and Glasgow accelerated housing improvements, replacing crumbling tenements with safer structures. But for those who lived through it, no change could erase the trauma. The 20 lives lost, homes destroyed, streets unrecognizable, and the memory of a city battered in a matter of hours. Ask anyone who was there. They'll describe the deafening roar of the wind, the crack of timber snapping, the crash of masonry, and the eerie silence afterward. They'll recall the smell of dust, broken plaster, and wet wood. The winter of 1967-1968 wasn't the coldest or snowiest Britain had faced, but it was among the most violent. 2 disasters in 2 weeks, a blizzard in the south and a devastating storm in the north, proved that nature doesn't care about plans, forecasts, or human confidence, while other winters are more famous. The Great Freeze of 1963, the Winter of Discontent in 1979. Scotland will never forget January 1968, the winter that froze Big Ben, leveled Glasgow, and reminded the nation that no one is ever fully prepared. If this story resonates with you, hit like, subscribe to preserve these memories, and leave a comment sharing where you were during January 1968. Every story matters.